He says this, he says that before 1950, the 40s, the 30s, 1/3 of the United States population were farmers. And of that 1/3 of the United States population that were farmers, literally, those farmers lived on the land they farmed. In fact, Wendell's famous for saying that the anxiety of the farmer was never how much produce, how much production they had. The anxiety of the farmer, the care of the farmer was always for the soil. Is the soil okay? Think about that spiritually. Is the soil okay? It's not that they don't care about the produce, right? They want good produce. But the soil, that's what they care for. They lived on the land. They ate the produce from the land. 1/3 of all farmers ate the produce that they made. That'll change things. You know what I mean? They actually eat it themselves. And he says, but somehow in the 40s, we got humanity in the United States, we got this idea that, hey, listen, I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen to you, but I mean, when I read this, immediately I made the connection. He says this, somehow we decided that the mercy gifts of sunshine and rain were too unpredictable. Now that's my poetic way of saying it. He didn't say that in the book, but that's what he's saying. Sunshine and rain, you couldn't depend on them all the time. Sometimes it would rain, and sometimes it would rain too much, and sometimes the sun would shine too much, and sometimes you wouldn't get enough sun, and sometimes you get too much rain, and it was just too inconsistent, right? And it's just, now theologically, it's important to remember, law is consistent. That's why a lot of people like law. And law is very important, because if you don't have law, you can't have, right? You can't have mercy and grace. They don't make sense without law. But law is predictable. Mercy is always unpredictable. So we want to live in mercy and grace, don't we? We want to be a people of mercy and grace, but it's difficult because mercy and grace is it's unpredictable sphere. And you know, most of us Americans, we don't like unpredictable. So he said, so what we did was we said, we're going to depend on machines. This shocked me. He said, in between 1950 and 1990, at a rate of 500,000 farmers a year, we extinguished the farming population to by 1990. I don't know if you know this, but I didn't know until I read this. Less than 2% of American population were farmers, and less than 1% of that 2% lived on the land they farmed and ate the produce that they farmed. And he said this, he says, and eventually it will catch up with us. And how does it usually catch up? Money, right? The buyers, the consumers will realize what's happening, and what will happen is they will demand a change, but when they demand that change, what we'll realize quickly is that you cannot make a farmer in 2 years. Right. In 3 years, in 4 years, in 5 years. No. And then this hit me. Farmers are like preachers and poets and artists and musicians. Farmers, you can't train them in 2 years. They have to be raised to the trade. So what happened? 1990s, that started happening. Literally, we're 25 years in from the prophet, who nobody really listened to that much in the church. I don't even know if most people knew who Wendell Berry was, even though he's a Christian guy from Kentucky. But we're starting to realize, wow, thank God for Wendell Berry. Thank God for, you know that, tell me words I thought I'd never hear, right? That's so romantic, isn't it? But if Jesus never speaks to you in a voice that's radically opposed to your own voice, you're probably just listening to your own voice. So God, help us. You know what I mean? Anyway. To be a people of grace and a people of mercy is to live in the unpredictable. And the unpredictable mercy and grace is to be called beloved when we thought we weren't. But it's also to be told the thing we don't necessarily always want to hear, in order that he can save our children and our children's children. Lord, have mercy on the poor, the weak, the real in our culture. Amen? Lord, have mercy on the artist. Lord, have mercy on the church. Lord, have mercy on the farmer in the field. Amen?